It's your boy Dio,
And here is Andre, the
and
giant
then
himself.
this is the second week of our podcast. We have like changed our name because a lot of people was using it, so
A lot, a
so
lot of people.
uncanny amount of people was using it. So we're going a little
It was
different route.
ridiculous.
So what we're going with now is the Dio Dre and Beyond podcast.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna come to you talking about anything, everything. Try to reach a topic that you enjoy, but we sure are going to talk about everything that we enjoy
As I stated, food, life, and everything in between.
and beyond.
And beyond.
So let's get this thing started. So Dre,
Yes.
what did everyone love as a kid growing up?
There's a
Entertainment
several.
wise, entertainment wise, what did you show up like Mondays and Fridays and stuff for on TV?
For me, it was generally pro wrestling. Like, just fire it up. I couldn't have been more like what in what maybe fifth grade, fourth, whatever. Like just into pro wrestling. It was a choice.
Facts. I loved pro wrestling. Like my parents at first never would let me watch it because like they used to wild out. It used to be it used to be a crazy time in pro wrestling. But like I grew up and like got some more freedom and then I started
Yeah.
watching it and I just fell in love with like everything about it. Pro wrestling like is a damn good time.
Yeah, it was an amazing point in time. Well, at least I mean around that time for me, the way I see it, because
What made it like that alluring like as a kid? Like
well, well, it was just like I've never seen anything like that before. Like seeing people jump off the top rope or do all these crazy moves or acrobatics, let alone the theatrics that took place in between. Like I've never really seen that before anywhere. So that really drew me in, especially being so young at the time. It was very impressionable.
exactly like it's on live television like as a kid like you don't really see like that much of that type of action, that type of experience. Like you have people jumping over high ropes, you have people who was like 7 feet tall. Like I never really saw a 7 footer before, and like these people are giants. And
Oh
like
yeah,
you got like human beings like tossing other human beings like across the ring. It's like what the hell is even going on right now? Like
yeah. Like when you finally saw like someone, this mammoth called the Big Show, and there was a time where he actually did weigh 500 pounds, and like you see this man walk through and just like toss everybody. He's like completely bigger than everybody. Like just really towers over them and dominant. But
yeah,
then yeah, it's
like
just
yeah,
I don't
and
know,
you
it's just
like
the allure.
and you like have people like even before like the Big Show time, like Andre the Giant is like
Oh yeah, dude.
how
Yeah,
the
the biggest
how
time.
is these people even moving like this, and like how is these people that they're fighting aren't dead? Like
Yeah,
like that was always a question for me as a kid. It's like how aren't you dead, sir? You just got dropped on your neck.
exactly.
You
That
just
that that
got
was
flown through a
that was beautiful.
table. Like
Yeah, that was a beautiful thing about being young and just like not knowing anything about pro wrestling.
it's like
Like
every show is like, dog, you alive? He comes back next week just fighting again. Like,
exactly. Like he just, like he
what?
just went through like three tables, took three chair shots to the head, one like and a couple like several more to the back, and then he's back next week. like
Like,
like nothing happened.
like people aren't supposed to be going through this. Like, you getting hit on the head with a steel chair. How are
And then
you okay?
the good old segments where Triple H will run through with a sledgehammer. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, the sledgehammer.
And no one really asked the question as a kid, like how is someone getting hit in the head with a sledgehammer, like the business end of the sledgehammer, and is still able to fully function and show up
Exactly. Like
the next week cutting a
they
whole
just
promo.
they show up next week talking, walking just fine. They not hurt or anything. You're like,
They're talking about
how,
like how
sir?
they got beat, how they got beat, and all that stuff with a sledgehammer. Like you shouldn't be able to describe it at all right now.
Should not be. You like, why aren't you in the hospital? Are you okay?
Mhm.
And then you had like the women wrestlers like going out.
Well.
That was a whole
Growing
other
up,
thing.
no. See, you can't even call them wrestlers at that time. Like, yes, some of them actually were really good in terms of like in ring capability, but you would never really see it at that time
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it was not the focus that time. It
That
was just
wasn't
not.
that was not their role at that time. Like that time it was less like sexualized and like they
Yeah,
knew like how to market that part of the segment. Like
exactly.
that
Is the way of the
woman,
Attitude Era.
yeah, female wrestlers was like a marketing piece during that time as a kid.
Exactly.
And
But
I'm seeing things I wasn't supposed to be seeing.
I would say this though, like speaking of which, with like at the time frame of all the stuff we were seeing, you fast forward that to now, everything has changed. Like pro wrestling at its time when I watched it, which had to be around fourth, fifth grade, as I mentioned, to now is like a whole different retrospect. Good things have happened
Yeah.
where you do have a bit more of a diverse crowd in there of like of athletes in there, and then you also have women there now actually wrestling, not just looking amazing.
Yeah, you have
Like
like
yeah,
true athletes now. Like everyone can like do these high flying moves, just not like a select few. And like
yeah,
everyone's not just using like pure power at this point right now. It's like there's like a
yeah, exactly,
repertoire of wrestling moves that you can actually see being done.
exactly. Like they change and move the setup essentially. They've moved into a different era, but along with moving into a different era, there's a few things that apparently didn't translate with that transition. So when say that, I mean like just storyline wise or like any kind of gimmick that they would utilize that just has not transitioned well. Like anything that you see out there now is now geared, at least within the WWE capacity, and maybe a little bit in any other promotion. That now it's feels more geared towards well kids exactly, which is when
Yeah.
I got into it. But then thing is, you've had full grown adults at these shows still at these shows at the time before like let's take it back to 1997
Okay.
like you'll see a bunch of men and women there cheering on for these guys. Like you got people here walk around in tights and all stuff, and they're being cheered. The people are into what they're doing. They're into the fans love what they're doing, as opposed to now where yeah you got people into it, but then like it's like now when you look at the crowd, it almost feels kind of dead a little bit. Like you hear the cheers, you see people are generally into it. If you look at the row, like the rows of people watching, but there are some people that when I look at their face on camera while I'm watching what's going on, like it kind of feels dead.
Do
And
you think this is due to like the dimmed down like violence of WWE now? Because back in the Attitude Era, like for per se, like you had like actual people like sometimes like really getting hurt, like and like you could
yeah,
like there's a bunch of blood and there's like more like riskier moves being done as opposed to now it's like kind of tamed from back then, and it's like definitely not like rated R. It's like PG, almost kind of like TV 14 or teens like now.
yeah, essentially.
So
So,
you think that plays like a big factor into why like fans aren't really into it?
well, I feel like it's a bit more to it than that. Um, so to really try and explain this a little better, again, we're going to go back to well, it's just no, as far as just the attitude era. Well, no, a little bit beyond that. So I would say, I guess what would be considered the golden age of wrestling, where you really saw people like Hulk Hogan, like at their prime, like where where like he was, having having his theme music, Real American play, and everyone's just digging the whole the Hulkamania vibe that you're getting right now. But then after from the 80s into the 90s, 1997 push into somewhere around the early 2000s was where you had the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
That's where I would say pro wrestling. Well, Vincent Mann and management realized that the days of old are not going to really resonate too well with the people currently watching pro wrestling. And the crowd changed. You know what I mean? And so you come up with this idea, all right, so maybe we need to be a little edgier. Maybe we need to be a little bit more rough. And that's where you saw like these characters come out. You have characters like Psycho Sid,
Yeah.
that's out there. You have characters like Stone Cold Steve Austin that's really running the show. And, you have Nation of Domination, Road Warriors.
Make Foley
So
slash mankind. Like,
exactly. Now and like they're having this edginess to them that people are interested in seeing. Like the promos they're cutting isn't really just like this whole glory of old where like where Hulk Hogan used to always promote like eating your like eating your vitamins, saying your prayers and all that stuff to be the best of the best. Now you
yeah.
got a little more edginess. You got people out there that's willing to scrap for
Yeah.
a power shot, so to speak.
Yeah,
For
you have like actual like beef starts to happen. Like you could like hostility starts to happen with them.
exactly, like there's really something there to grab on, and that was add to error, which now you see all these like some risque moments, but otherwise like as heavily dramatized moments that do occur. Like example, the situation with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Brian Pillman, where there's that whole segment where he breaks into Brian Pillman's house. Him and Brian Pillman have a back and forth, and then Brian Pillman pulls out a freaking gun and goes off the air where like no he actually shot the weapon apparently, and
Lord.
it came to a point where apparently some people really tuned in like no like chimed in saying, oh, this crazy violent war you guys doing, this is crazy, I never expected from pro wrestling and stuff like that, like where they're pushing the envelope, they're actually getting people engaged, and that was the biggest part of it. People thought like some people were really concerned with what happened on television when deep down it's scripted, but at the same time
Yeah, that
it was able to generate a reaction.
that's the thing. Like during that era, like like people knew it was scripted, but it's like you had that also that question like, is it like it was like more of realistic. It was more like more passion kind of like in what was happening. It was like and like kept the people engaged. It kept people watching it and coming back to it. Like, damn, I have to watch next week. Is he dead? Like,
Exactly, like you enjoyed it. Like yes, this is all entertainment, but it gets you into, and then part of it is supposed to keep you in it, not to take you out of it.
yeah,
And
like and then you also had like a stake in like who was going to be champion and things like that.
yes, exactly. Like you had that feeling like like of who's gonna be champion. You're like, oh, I hope Stone Cold finally gets that title opportunity finally.
Like a lot of it was like way less predictable. It was like you when you saw like a match, like you didn't kind of didn't know who was going to win after.
Yeah, yeah, like in a sense you didn't really know. Like you in the back of your mind of who might go over,
Yeah.
but
But the build up to that like that championship match like kept you wondering like damn like, they
yes,
kept going back and forth like they
exactly,
both kind of like strong in this race so like who's really going to win in this like pay-per-view right now.
exactly.
So people
The
paid
whole
for the
lead up to it.
pay-per-view more.
Yeah, and that was a beautiful part about it. But now it feels a little different. When you fast forward to now, where how to explain this? Because like now, back then, this is why I say this is my opinion. Where at that time frame, it wasn't exactly a whole bunch of stuff to compete with on television. I feel in terms of like what was like shock and awe factor, so to speak, or like
Yeah,
was it somewhat entertaining that at least was something for you to watch for like an hour or so. Now there's like a plethora of things that you can watch. Like there's so many things out there. Like first of all, we had social media, which is another thing altogether. Where
social.
now,
Yeah, social
what
media. You got freaking streaming sites for shows. It's like
exactly?
so much entertainment like being rushed into you at all at once. Like,
Yeah,
where
exactly. Yeah, and it's
does
all there.
WWE actually fit into all that? Where does pro wrestling fit into all that? Even now,
Yeah,
like with MMA on the rise, like people watching that more.
because at the time MMA was still kind of like on the fence, like it was being heavily scrutinized by
Yep.
politicians, saying as I quote uh from what late John McCain called it, human cockfighting. So and 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 to be honest, like it wasn't really, but we'll get to that another time. But
Yeah.
to now where you have all this going on, all these avenues of entertainment, where does pro wrestling really fit in? Everyone knows what it is now. Everyone's smart. There's a terminology used where you have a regular wrestling fan, you have a smart wrestling fan.
Yeah. And you always hear like there's the thing like everyone knows the joke, but you just don't say it. Like,
Exactly. But here and now, everyone is well aware.
yeah.
Unless you are, still a kid and you're not really privy to all that information, everyone really knows that that it's a show, that it's and just purely entertainment. But it's what they've had to do now to try and curtail it, to try and fit with what's in now. And that's why to me it feels like a weird reality segment. It's like a weird reality
It
TV
feels
segment.
like a soap opera now.
Well, yeah, a bit of a violent soap opera. I can't even really call it a violent soap opera. It's like semi-violent, really, because you only really get to see like forms of extremities. Well, yeah, wrong term word for like this like extreme nature coming out of it, where like someone's bleeding, like really bleeding, like they're busted open. Oh man, like this fight is going back and forth. It keeps you interested. Now you're not really so much interested because like now you kind of sit down and you see them, have it out in the ring, and you can. I've literally sat down and watched a few times where like I could kind of see where they're kind of giving the other the go ahead to do a certain move. I shouldn't be seeing that.
Yeah,
I shouldn't be able to see that.
wrestling now it becomes like real noticeable because part for me it's kind of like they stopped like you said like we said earlier like they're athletes now like they doing all these amazing moves and stuff like that, but are they really wrestlers is the question. It seems more now they're more of like the WWE is World Wrestling Entertainment. They're more entertaining now.
'Cause that's where they're trying to
Yeah.
try to garner new fans and try to keep them in a way. You may alienate though in the process your old school fans. You may alienate them if they haven't already. 'Cause I'm pretty sure they have. Cause I've seen I've seen the comments in like several videos online where someone poses a match. They post up a match and they talk about it, and then like you see all the negative comments reaching out like, "Oh man, what has WWE come to? Vince McMahon has lost his shit." That's all you hear every time, and it it's interesting to say this. But like this is essentially a good point, like to prove that you are losing your some of your old fan base. Like they're walking away from it because it's something they just can't take serious anymore. They can't really try and talk about this to other friends like how you used to have it back in the day where people would talk about. I remember in school, in elementary school, you would have people talk about it.
Yeah. You would
People would
come in
talk
the
about what
next
happened on
day.
SmackDown, talk
Yeah.
about what happened on Raw. Even in high school, you would hear it.
I know I
Like what
did.
happened.
Like I would
Exactly.
go like talk about what the hell just did we watch yesterday? Like how you think things are going to turn out and everything like that. It was like a full discussion in the morning when it came to
Hmm.
wrestling.
Yeah. Now, man, that's not a conversation that people
Yeah,
have
no
now.
one really. Yeah, you could. No one really cares. Like, even if you still watch it, you're not gonna like go to the lunch table and bring up WWE now. Like, they're gonna look at you funny. They're gonna be like, "It's fake, dude," and then like keep on pushing.
Exactly. Like my sisters have literally watched. Like I think like they saw like a glimpse of pro wrestling and like they were just not interested. And then what they rather watch is other reality television series, like which is not even that far off from what it is now, in my opinion. At least with WWE, what it feels like. And then that says something to me.
So
Like that
where does the problem actually lie?
well, to me the problem lies in just for one knowing what your audience is and trying to figure out what is in now and how to compete with what's now so you are still relevant. You're not trying to be better. Well, in my opinion, you shouldn't be trying to be better than whatever else is out there. But you gotta stay relevant, which I think pro wrestling may eventually suffer from at some point. Maybe I am completely wrong. It'll probably be around for several years to come still, because despite what I'm saying, despite what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, but
There,
also like
there's still people out there watching it.
yeah, also like they're in a point in this world like where they can't really do what they used to do. Like
Well, yeah, that
it's
that
like a
that is a bit
PG
unfortunate,
era in
but
this world. It's like you can't have like women just strip teasing like Kelly did. You can't have like people just like getting thrown all the way to who knows where. Like
that's true.
like people is like less is more sensitive today kind of. And you have to like accommodate for that because if you keep doing like those things of old, then people's going to like in this day and age cancel you.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, it's rather unfortunate because I mean, some of the things that they have done, most recently with the certain allegations that happened with well, not most recently, I should say at the time, um, with the issue with Chris Benoit came out, like when the the double murder suicide came out, like that rocked pro wrestling. That rocked the WWE
Yo,
because
with me, I was so confused by what was happening because I was tuning in for like another show, and then like for like a good 15 minutes, I'm like, what's happening right now? Is this like a
yeah,
joke?
yeah, 'cause I remember exactly what happened. I remember um like the week before all that came out on air. Last week on Raw, Vincent Mann was in a limousine and it exploded. Like so they gave like just for the story purpose to say like he blew up in a car. All of a sudden the show opens up with Vincent Mann talking. Now I'm like, whoa, what happened to the story? Like he's alive and well now, and then that's when they mentioned the death that occurred, and then I was like, oh, this is crazy. And this is before anyone even knew like the full details of what went down, at least publicly, who
Yeah,
knew that? Because like initially, what everyone thought was that Chris Benoit died and that his family died. That was it. No one knew,
yeah. No one knew
the
exactly what
rest of it.
happened.
Yeah,
Like
and no
I
one knew the
know
rest of it.
I had no idea what happened.
Yeah, I had no idea either. And then like it was the whole show was a tribute to Chris Benoit, and then all of a sudden, boom, you find out the rest of it. He is omitted from all mention on WWE.
Yeah,
That in itself, that whole situation made it a problem for WWE because it was put under the microscope again for their practices of what they do in the ring and what allows people to be safe. Why do I say it's a link? Is because they found out later on, like some like they did a bit of research on the autopsy of Chris Benoit and realized his brain was comparison with you could compare it to that of an 88-year-old Alzheimer's patient. That is a problem. Why does he have that type of brain damage? Well, that's probably due to the fact of him taking repeated chair shots and just hits to the head.
yeah. Then like to get through those like shows, you like now you're probably drugging up and everything. So
And now you'll notice that there's little to no chair shots to the head done anymore.
Yeah.
There's little to none of that. There's no blood really shown. Um, it's just really that essentially. Like it
Yeah.
just brought it
So
down. That's where the peak era fully went into effect.
yeah, so you would say like that was like a major turning point in WWE.
I would say so. Yes,
That
like
was
it
definitely
was a
like a
big blow.
key thing that happened. Like it was one of the biggest blows that happened to them. Like they really did have to like change how they did things.
Yeah, and from what I've realized, every time the WWE suffers a blow, it causes them to have to kind of shift direction. Way back when, and people probably have already watched this show already, a Dark Side of the Ring, where they mentioned the steroid trial. But this was well, the steroid trial that happened with Vincent Mann and the government. It's literally that Vincent Mann versus the government
Yeah.
over allegations on him quote unquote giving steroids to his athletes, which honestly, it's not like he was giving it to them or like making them do it. No, it was a bullshit setup. But
Yeah.
it's what I believe from what I gathered from what I've heard before and all that. So and that trial, he like if he had been found guilty of all those allegations where his stuff were like jacked up because he made them jacked up, he would have lost everything. He's
Yeah.
found clear of all allegations, and then now you have this. At that point, you have Vincent Mann saying that they're gonna run tests to make sure that all the athletes are clean. Now all of a sudden you have athletes that are smaller than what you're used to seeing. That was one turning point.
Yeah.
That was one turning point. It got brought up again when Eddie Guerrero died due to heart failure. And then they started questioning him again on that. And they brought up their wellness program to try and clear things up to ensure that everything was clean. That
Yeah,
was another
it was
turning point.
yeah, it's like all the unwritten rules like that people kind of knew about started to come to light. And so when that happens, you have to address the situation
Exactly.
because you
But
can't be
my
blind to people not knowing.
yeah, but my main point is that like there's always like a turning point in time that has caused things to change dramatically, at least for the WWE. And then now, if we were to go back now to like talk about what's really at the focal point of like why wrestling is just not as popular as it is, beyond that, beyond the fact that people see as being dangerous, people being reckless, why watch it? Because it's so-called fake, which again I would not use that term. I just rather use the term entertainment
Yeah,
or scripted out of
yeah, it's
respect to
just
everyone.
scripted. Like
Yeah, I'd rather just say that because their injuries are real.
yeah, they
Like
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 people
like
actually be tearing ACLs
yeah,
and things like that. Like
yeah.
when someone
When
is
they
gone
mess
for
up,
like a year because they shattered their knee, they're gone for a year. Like
yeah, exactly. Like when you do fuck up in the ring, it is a real consequence sometimes when they actually do have a
yeah,
legit
like
injury and they
people
got to
had
step
to
out
retire
for a
because of that.
while. Exactly. You've had people that just won't fight in the ring. You've had this
Like
one
Edge
guy.
had to retire. Like
Yeah, exactly. Edge was gone for 11 years
yeah, like he
due
had a
to a neck
serious
injury.
injury. Like he couldn't wrestle anymore.
Kurt Angle is now officially gone because his body truly can't take it no more. So that says something. And now, when we look at it, like I see that it still has its moments where it's entertaining, where it can be fun. To just let yourself be lost in the moment. Try to be at least, but ultimately it just doesn't feel the same anymore like it was before. Like at that time when I was in fifth grade. Granted, yeah, like I was a little kid, didn't know any better, but that doesn't mean to
It
say that
doesn't have the same mystique as it once did.
yeah, and it doesn't mean that I can't really enjoy either. It should be an ability that allows me to enjoy even as an adult, at least watch it as something entertaining to watch. Doesn't have to be me, becoming some fanboy
Yeah, that's the
for some of
thing.
these
Like
wrestlers. It's not that.
with people our age, like we kind of see both generations. But like people who grew up in the Attitude Era, like the older adults, like they can't forget about it, and they can't like see the differences between the two. Like we can see the differences between the two and like find entertainment in both. A lot of people can't, and that kind of like splits the audience.
Yeah. And that's another big issue too. And I feel like the change has come mainly due to like, well, business reasons. Like like again, like it seems to be
Yeah,
more about trying to find a way to make a sizable profit
yeah,
and make it work. But
def yeah. Just
I don't
gotta
know.
figure out how to do that.
Look, yeah, because like if you look at it now, it's insane. Like you have people who who are ones idolized a lot, and like you had people running to them for autographs, which still does happen now. Don't get it wrong, it still does happen, but the effect has waned a little. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
feel the same.
doesn't. So speaking on that, since we're running out of time, um, let's end it on this. Your favorite wrestler then and now.
But wrestler RVD at the
Okay.
time, RVD, I love him so much. Like all his acrobats in the ring were amazing. 5-star frog splash. I would mimic him so many times
Okay.
at
I
school and
loved
stuff
his
like that.
move, like Rob Van
Damn,
Dam.
damn, exactly. And my my gaming handles are literally me, like
I
parroting off of that.
I loved
You know what I mean?
RVD.
You know how many times I've called myself Dre Van Dam? You know
Uh,
how many times I've
that's
done
love
that?
right there.
Like I've done that, but now, I mean, as of now, I don't. Yeah, I really don't have a favorite wrestler. I can't tell you that I do. I can tell you one of my favorite MMA fighters. That I can tell you,
See,
but
now
like,
that even that's a issue right now. Then
yeah, like I can't. I don't have a favorite in
yeah,
pro wrestling right now. Like my favorite, it's still gonna be RVD
yeah,
because I don't connect with what's now.
yeah. My favorite all time would be The Rock. His charisma was just like unmatched, I think. And then like well, like when The Rock kind of like retired and like started doing his movie thing, like it that kind of transitioned to like Rey Mysterio because
Mm,
he was just amazing in the ring. I mean, as of now, I don't really have a favorite one per se,
you
but
see,
because I mean, Rey Mysterio's kind of still kind of around, but like I would say for now would be John Cena, even though he's kind of actor now too. But like
hmm
I can't really say I could like call him my favorite because I can't really see him. So nah.
it's one of those things. Like you don't get, and like it's weird, and uh, I just the one thing I see that could make things better is if one you are allowed to take back the rating. The rating is allowed to go up a bit in terms of who's allowed to watch and what is suitable for.
Yeah,
That's one. Two,
that's gonna be hard to do.
um, two, there needs to be a good balance between giving your wrestlers a script, so to speak, in terms of what to talk about or like to sell this promo that they're doing, whatever,
Yeah,
versus with them coming up with it fully on their own. There needs to be a mix in between where where Magic could give you an idea of where to go and you figure out how to set the pavement for it.
yeah,
That's what needs to happen. Because as of right now, everything feels like they are really reading from a script. Like legit going off of a script, word for word, and it's weird.
yeah. It's it's a little too scripted, and that's I
Like, like,
think
like
why
if you
people is like moving away from it.
and if you look at AEW, AEW gives more creative freedom to their wrestlers, but at the same time, now they suffer from a fact of of like that it feels like it's not reined in enough, where everyone just feels over. It's weird. Like I've seen heels cheered on AEW. I've seen heels cheered. I don't get it. Maybe
Yeah,
I'm wrong, and you can call me a casual if you want because of how I'm talking about pro wrestling, but I do watch it, and I do try to keep hope alive on seeing that it kind of gets better. But I don't know. I'm a bit weirded out. Like I kind of prefer watching
yeah,
AEW more because of how it is, and they're not really rating themselves that they're able to actually curse on television
yeah.
finally.
I got
But
someone like
yeah,
tuning into us. Tavia Memory says always say wrestling like reality TV. Vast majority is pretending not predetermined nonsense for the sake of entertainment.
yes,
That's
yes,
yeah, that's
completely
definitely agree
true.
with that statement.
Like it
Like
just doesn't
everything
make.
is
I
for the
don't know.
sake of entertainment right now. Like no, there's no real struggle. There's no animosity really anymore.
You don't feel it. Everyone's friends. Well, like, well, that's what it feels like on AEW at least. Like it feels like it's a very friendly atmosphere, even though they try to sell the point of it being, of them fighting each other or they got a beef with this person. Especially like if you watch AEW, MJF, that man is the best heel I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I love watching him. The way he curses out a whole town and gets everyone to hate him, gets called an asshole
yeah.
as he enters and as he leaves. Perfect.
I know one of my favorite heels was it's always like Randy Orton.
Well, Randy Orton right now is not there right now. He's in a weird spot right now. He's not a
Yeah, I
heel.
talk about like back in the
Back then,
back
yeah, it
then,
wasn't
like
bad. Yeah.
he was damn good as a heel. Like
Oh yeah. He was perfect. Like he had the ability to be a full on heel. And granted, there was sometimes I felt like he pushed the envelope a bit weird when he really should have. But well, more like when he was feuding with Rey Mysterio. But that was all for the sake of entertainment. I'll willing to let that slide. But yeah. But shout out to the fact that who chimed in. Like yeah, like it is pretty much a reality segment. It's a reality TV segment. And that's what it really feels like.
yeah,
And I get why it has to feel like that because this is where we're in right now, where it feels like maybe that's what you need to stay relevant. But don't forget what you use to get yourself to the dance.
yeah, definitely. But that's all the time we have. Very good topic. We definitely going to revisit this later on.
We need to revisit it. We need to
Definitely,
revisit
because
it.
there's a lot of information here and there's a lot of like stories here to go into it. Like, and it's something that's definitely not going to be solved in one podcast. But
Not at all. I feel like I kind of jumped a lot, and I really want to talk more because like there's so much I want to talk about like for pro wrestling, but and hence why I kept jumping from like one point to another a little
yeah,
bit. But
yeah,
we
we
need to continue this
yeah
again.
we'll definitely continue with this. Tavi also says it's probably law too. If there was genuine threats to people, well, being lawsuits could easily get involved. That's true. They probably are worried about lawsuits now. Like I said, this is a whole new day and age, so it's kind
Oh
of
yeah, lawsuits.
it's
Yeah,
it's very tough for like WWE. Like they really have to find their footing again.
yeah, it's gonna be hard.
Yeah,
It's gonna be especially hard, and there's more on that too, on like what they would have been called out on about the lawsuits. I have a few more that I remember from way back when of
yeah,
what I saw on television.
yeah. Well,
Oh,
this was a nice, good topic to talk about. We'll definitely revisit again. But this is your boy Dio.
and this is Andre.
And this is Dio Dre and Beyond Podcast, and we are going to sign off now. Thanks for anyone who listened in. Good looking. We'll be looking to have way more conversations and topics for y'all. Usually gonna be like every Friday, 6:30. So we'll keep y'all posted.
Till next time.
Alright. Peace.